I was recently diagnosed with manic depression and anxiety disorder. I thought I was an outcast. 14 years old and already an emotionless wreck. Well, not entirely emotionless though. I had episodes of severe depression, mostly late at night, when there was nothing to keep your mind busy with. I often felt very afraid, helpless, like something was out to get me. Of course, when I came back to my senses, I knew there was nothing to be afraid of, since my parents were downstairs watching TV or something. This continued throughout the years. I turned 18 and I was on heavy medication, but for some reason it wasn't entirely working, so I had occasional nightly episodes still. One day both of my parents decided to take a weekend for themselves. I didn't have an episode for a couple of months, so they were comfortable enough to leave me for the weekend. They would leave Friday night and come back on Sunday. Being an only child, I was quite anxious to be alone for 3 days straight. My mom told me to call her whenever I felt it was needed, even if it was at 3 in the morning. The neighbors were home too, and they were like a third set of grandparents to me. They offered to cook me dinner in the weekends, but I had already prepped some meals prior, so there was no need to. It was Friday night and the door slammed shut. My parents were gone for the weekend. A mix of excitement and anxiousness was filling my body. I had the freedom to stay up all night while playing some games or watching movies, but knowing I was alone for the whole weekend was still giving me a stressed out feeling from within. It was 1 a.m. and I was beginning to feel tired. I decided to turn off my computer and call it a day. Normally I read before finally going to sleep, but I was too tired, and I fell asleep almost instantly after pulling the blanket over my body. Somewhere between 3 and 4 a.m., I woke up to some scratching at the door downstairs. There are lots of bars and cafes in the area, and since it was Friday night, lots of drunk young men were strolling through the street and doing whatever drunk people do, I guess. I didn't think any of it and tried to go back to sleep. The scratching increased over the following hours and I was getting highly annoyed. I opened my window and shouted that I was trying to sleep. I saw something sprinting away in the woods in front of my house, but it wasn't human. I couldn't see very well in the dark, but I thought I saw something like a dog, or a big cat run away, which probably was a good explanation for the scratching on the door. I closed my window and jumped back into bed. I stared at the ceiling for a good while before falling back asleep once again. Every once in a while, I wake up with a splitting headache. That morning was one of those times. I slowly got out of bed and placed my feet on the cold floor. I got dressed and was heading downstairs to take an aspirin. After my morning routine, I decided to check out the damage on the door. I opened the door, and once I realized what I saw, was causing a shiver down my spine. Blood-stained scratches were covering the door. The scratch marks were too far apart to be caused by an animal. That means the thing that I have seen running away in the middle of the night was not a dog. I think it was human, or at least something similar. How vague that may sound. I looked around, and, even though the Weather Channel said it was going to be sunny, everywhere I looked, there was a thick layer of mist, limiting my view to at least 50 meters or less. I was creeped out and slammed the door shut behind me. I decided to lock myself up in my room and tried to calm down. I tried to turn on the small tube television in my room, but all it showed was static, on every channel. At that moment I started having a panic attack, and after a few moments, I passed out on the floor. When I awoke, it was dark again. The clock on the wall still showed from last night. 3:36 a.m. No matter how long I looked at it, the hands didn't move. I believed that the clock stopped ticking when the scratching began. Too big of a coincidence that the batteries quit right when someone, or something, started ravaging the front door. I looked out of my window and the thick layer of mist wasn't gone yet. It felt like I was stuck in a bad dream, unable to wake up. I crawled up into a corner and waited for what seemed like an eternity. The scratching started again, but this time it was louder. Presumably coming from downstairs. I armed myself with a lousy pocket knife. I got it from my dad a couple of years ago, but the blade was dull and the wooden handle was starting to come off. Certainly better than nothing though. The scratching continued for hours on end. I had countless panic attacks but somehow got through the whole ordeal. The following morning, the same scratches were now also on the door in the hallway. Meaning that whatever made those was inside of my house. I started to gag. The stress caused by all of this made me throw up what little was left in my stomach. I haven't eaten since I discovered the scratches on the front door. No matter how hard I try, I just can't. Luckily, today my parents will come home. I just hope this is all over soon. It turned 3:36 again. I locked myself up in the basement, and that thing is scratching on the basement door. My parents didn't come home today. I tried to call them but I have no service. It seems like everything that works on a power source is dead. The TV, my phone. It feels like I'm in a different world. The noise is unbearable. Something is out to get me, and whatever it is, at this rate it is going to succeed. I've got until tomorrow night to find a solution for all of this or I'm afraid I will not be alive to tell the tale. I think I'm stuck in this hellhole. If anyone reads this, please send help.